Welcome back to the channel. Well, as you may know, I've been attending EAA AirVenture in Oshkosh regularly for many decades. And since I've become interested in flight simulation, I've tried to do an annual report on what I've seen there regarding flight simulation to share with those who are unable to attend. As I spend days walking around AirVenture, I keep my eyes peeled for anything related to flight simulation and try to make a record of it to share with you. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to share with you what I saw this year and also editorialize a little on things I think EAA might do to benefit from the expanding interest in flight simulation that has occurred in the last several years. So let's take a look at what I found this year. Redbird Sims continue to play a prominent role in AirVenture with a self-standing display, but much smaller than previous years. Last year I mentioned that EAA had made a deal with Redbird to put their simulators in the new Proficiency Center. This permanent installation of a number of FAA-approved training devices seems to have given Redbird simulator of choice status for EAA. I saw a number of Redbird Sims at various EAA locations, including the Learn to Fly Center. There they had this $90,000 3 Degree of Freedom motion sim. Also, they had this almost $11,000 sim setup that you can see here, which isn't much different than what many home sim builders build for a lot less. Still, the Redbird booth was quite disappointing compared to the previous years. They only had one motion sim there compared to 3 or 4 last year. If you watch my video, you can check that out. Although Redbird has been a leader in general aviation sims for a while, their technology is getting a bit stale. Their prices are high, and I'm not sure they're evolving with the technology that's currently available. The only forward-looking thing I saw at their booth was a virtual reality system using mixed reality with a Vario headset, and that looked promising, although I don't think it's available for sale yet. Another disappointment this year was AL Sim from France. They normally have large displays with multiple simulators, including curved projection screens. This year they offered a single non-enclosed sim, the ALSR, which is a Cirrus SR 2022. A feature of these sims is that they use real Garmin hardware, which makes the sims quite expensive, and they can run well into the 6 figures just for a basic sim like you see here with 3 TV monitors. The big question is why, like Redbird, has AL Sim reduced their footprint at AirVenture for 2023. Another returning flight simulator company was Frasca, which caters mostly to flight schools, and had a single trailer this year compared to previous years when they had a large trailer and had sims available to everyone. These were available only by appointment to qualified flight school representatives. I was able to get inside for a look, and it's really nothing special. Noble Sim was at the show showing a nice Cirrus SR trainer that they have developed. Very similar to what AL Sim has, but at a fraction of the cost because they're not using the actual Garmin hardware. They're using emulated in-house made hardware. This FAA-approved advanced air training device sells for about $35,000 as you see it. Unlike the AL Sim SR trainer, which uses a proprietary flight simulation hardware, this runs X-Plane 11. X-Plane 12 just isn't mature enough to get FAA certified. By the way, I wouldn't expect to see Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 in any simulator that's FAA approved very soon for a couple reasons. First, the mandatory upgrades just aren't going to hack it. What if you're getting ready to start a flight lesson with a student, and as you sit down you find out you have to do a 1-hour mandatory upgrade of unknown quality? Second, in my opinion, the game-like interface, including all the music and explosions and startup, just aren't conducive to of serious flight simming. Also, there are a number of other unrealistic annoyances like cluttering the taxiways with taxiway lights and VASIs, trees at the ends of runways, and other things that are just not realistic and the FAA probably wouldn't accept. We all love the great scenery with Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, but 2024 looks to be even more game-like, and the FAA doesn't require photorealistic scenery, but only plausible scenery, since much of the training is done in instrument conditions. And that's why most of the simulators you're going to see for FAA use are going to be either X-plane or prepared. Another FAA-approved basic air training device is the one that was shown by Gleim. They have put together a training program and they offer a turnkey system, including a 3-monitor system using a touch screen monitor to display the instruments as you see here. This basic system starts out at about $7,500. This setup could be easily replicated by most do-it-yourselfers in a non-FAA approved version using Air Manager to build the touch panel. One of the bright spots of the show this year was the Real Sim Gear booth, which expanded from 2 to 3 full exhibition bays this year. Their booth featured the new VisionJet SF50 simulator that they will soon be offering as an FAA-approved advanced air training device. The nav display units are not pop-outs, but are actually self-contained, coded by Real Sim Gear to operate directly with the sim, which means that even though it is using a X-Plane 11 sim, it will still display the G3000 suite of navigation instruments. The best intel I could get is that this is going to cost probably in the neighborhood of $65,000, but I guess if you can afford a VisionJet for almost $4 million, that this won't be a problem. It definitely looked like it was really well made. They also had on display their existing SR Cirrus model flight training device. Their booth was definitely a must-see at AirVenture this year. Another addition this year was a large self-standing tent by Honeycomb Aeronautical in what they call their Learn to Fly Academy. This is a joint initiative between Honeycomb and several other companies, including Gleim Aviation, Sporty's Pilot Shop, and X-Plane, to inspire the next generation of aviation professionals by providing labs for aviation-based STEM learning in middle and secondary schools. Their booth also served as a showcase for their current and upcoming products in the Honeycomb Aeronautical line. Kudos to Honeycomb for spearheading this initiative. And as if we hadn't seen enough Cirrus simulation products around the grounds, Cirrus in their booth also offered their version of a Cirrus procedure trainer. While the number of sim exhibitors was down from previous years, there were lots of sims tucked away in various exhibits around the grounds. Redbird sims were featured in many EAA venues, including the Learn to Fly Center, as previously mentioned. Virtual Fly from Spain put their Solo G1 desktop training device on display at the Sling Pilot Academy booth at the Aviation Education Center. They also had a Solo GA desktop sim available for use at the Flying Magazine booth. This is a clever way for sim manufacturers to get some exposure without paying the high exhibition booth prices. Finally, a number of booths used simulation as a way to attract the crowds. For example, here AOPA was offering a chance to fly in VR in order to attract potential new members. NASA had a simulator at their exhibit to help promote goodwill for the space program. Some of the military services, here the Marines, also had a simulator to promote recruiting, although I think this kid's just a little bit young to get started. But it is amazing what a childhood experience like this can do to change a kid's life. Boeing was back this year again with their 787 Dreamliner demonstrator. Really cool cockpit, a big hit, and people stand in line for hours to get a chance to try to land this beast. Real favorite with the kids. Finally, even some with a heavenly mission are using simulators to attract people to their booth. While there are no doubt some sim exhibits that I missed, I did want to highlight one that's been there the last couple years. That is Infinite Flight, and they offer these tablet-based flight simulators. And while as a pilot it's hard for me to consider that a real simulator, I have to say that it attracts the right crowd, a lot of young people, and gets them into the idea of aviation and may even motivate them to look deeper into flight simulation on a desktop computer. So now I ask you to bear with me for a few minutes while I ask the question, is EAA missing the boat on flight simulation at AirVenture? When I'm at AirVenture, I see a lot of older, graying guys like myself, and I start to wonder, who's going to run this thing, and what's this thing going to be like when we're gone? Then I see the kids lined up to use the flight simulators at the exhibits as I walk around the AirVenture grounds, and I think I have my answer. Simulators are a great gateway to real aviation, but unfortunately, the ones that are shown at AirVenture now are outside the reach of most normal people, especially kids. I remember back, say, in about 2007 when Microsoft Flight Simulator FSX had a major booth in one of the hangars. Also, SATEC and A2A simulators and others had booths. And as you can see here, even as recently as about 3 or 4 years ago, Thrustmaster was a major sponsor and sponsored one of the hangars at AirVenture. But it appears that EAA is no longer a viable place for marketing home simulator products, and only the most expensive FAA-certified simulators seem to be exhibiting, and even those seem to be on the decline. This is unfortunate for a couple reasons. First, for pilots, many of the non-certified homemade sims have equal or greater training value than some of the certified sims that cost a lot more. And even some modest add-ons to the sim can add great training value and avoid a lot of Hobbs time learning avionics systems. Even without add-ons, the simulator provides valuable partial task training. And an FAA-approved training device only allows you to log about 12.5 total hours toward your private and instrument ratings. But even without logging the time, a non-approved flight simulator can greatly reduce your flight training time for all your ratings by practicing procedures and maneuvers in your home sim. The second reason I'd like to see more emphasis on home flight simulation at EAA AirVenture is due to the fact that it's a great gateway to attract people of all ages into aviation. It provides a less intimidating baby step to engage in the aviation community. It seems to me, since most home simulators are built from various components, it attracts the same kind of people and is a perfect fit for EAA with its focus on home building aircraft and aviation. So how can EAA create this focus on home flight simulation at the next AirVenture? Well, first, I think EAA needs to actively recruit home sim exhibitors. This should not only include sim manufacturers, but also component manufacturers and nonprofit organizations dedicated to flight simming. The Flight Simulation Association, who sponsor each year the Flight Sim Expo, would be perfect partners to help identify and bring this together. This would introduce a vast new audience of EAA members and AirVenture attendees to the possibilities of modern flight simulation. Next, it would be nice to consolidate all flight sim related exhibitors and exhibits into a single venue, whether it be a section of one of the hangars like the Federal Pavilion this year, or possibly a self-standing facility like the Innovation Center featured in some past years. Many flight sim related companies do not have the deep pockets of real aviation companies, and there may need to be some kind of a subsidy offering low cost or free floor space for exhibits. Some smaller home sim component manufacturers have told me also that the 7-day commitment is what keeps them away. So it might be worth considering having the flight simulation exhibits only on the last 3 days over the weekend of AirVenture. A third and fairly easy way to promote home flight simulation at AirVenture would be to solicit more home simulator forums and make them available throughout AirVenture. Many sim enthusiasts aren't pilots, and they either have never thought of attending EAA AirVenture or they think they might not fit in. Any focus on flight simulation should help dispel those notions. My final suggestion has to do with the kids, which we know are the future of aviation. As we've seen, simulators are like a magnet to kids. Several of the high-end sim vendors that I spoke with said that although no one wants to turn the kids away, they really do interfere with some of their sales efforts. KidVenture offers some great programs, but it's not that conveniently located over at Pioneer Airport. I envision some venue on the main campus with, say, 20 or 30 basic but capable simulators, possibly in conjunction with the Flight Sim Academy from Honeycomb, that would be available for children and young adults to use. And that way, vendors could turn them away from the sims that they're trying to sell without feeling like they're being exclusionary to the kids. So if you haven't figured it out by now, I think incorporating more flight simulation, specifically home flight simulation, into the EAA AirVenture experience could benefit everyone. First, EAA pilots and members can be more aware of the technology that's rapidly expanding and offers great opportunities for them to enhance their flight training and safety by utilizing home simulators. Secondly, EAA can take advantage of the recent explosive interest in flight simulation and help bring some of these new folks into the aviation community and the EAA family. Of course, that's just my opinion. I may be wrong, but I thought I'd share it with you. I thank you for listening to the end if you're still here. Hope that you'll like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you on my next video.